In a quiet village nestled between towering mountains, there lived a humble stonecutter named Ramesh. Every morning, before the sun rose, he picked up his hammer and chisel and made his way to the massive rocks outside the village. With each strike of his hammer, he broke pieces of stone that were used to build homes and temples. Despite his hard work, his life was full of struggles. He barely earned enough to feed himself, and the villagers hardly noticed him. His hands were rough, his clothes were torn, and his back ached from years of labor. One day, as he wiped sweat from his forehead, he saw a wealthy merchant passing by in a golden carriage, his silk robes flowing in the wind. People bowed in respect, treating him like royalty. Ramesh sighed, thinking, "Why am I cursed to live such a hard life? If only I were rich like that merchant, my life would be easy." Just as he uttered these words, a mysterious voice whispered, "Your wish is granted." Suddenly, Ramesh felt his clothes change into rich silk garments, and he found himself sitting in a luxurious carriage. Servants walked beside him, carrying his goods, and villagers bowed as he passed. He was no longer a poor stonecutter. He had become the rich merchant he envied. At first, life was grand. He enjoyed fine food, expensive jewelry, and the respect of the people. But soon he realized something was missing. Though he had wealth, he had no true power. One day, as he traveled through the village, a procession stopped his carriage. Everyone, including him, was forced to bow. The king was passing by. Dressed in a shining robe with a golden crown, the king commanded the respect of all. Ramesh clenched his fists. "A merchant is nothing compared to a king. I wish I were the king." Once again, the mysterious voice echoed, "Your wish is granted." In an instant, Ramesh sat on a magnificent throne, ruling the kingdom. Soldiers obeyed his every command, ministers sought his approval, and people bowed in fear and admiration. For a while, he enjoyed the luxury and absolute power, believing he had finally achieved greatness. However, one afternoon, as he sat in his palace courtyard, he began to feel hot and restless. The scorching sun beat down on his kingdom, making rivers dry and people suffer. Even as a king, he couldn't stop the sun. Frustrated, he thought, "What is the use of being a king if I am powerless against nature? The sun is stronger than me. I wish to be the sun." A bright light flashed, and Ramesh found himself floating in the sky. He had become the blazing sun, spreading heat across the earth. He shone brightly, making rivers dry, crops wither, and people hide under the shade. He felt invincible. But then, something unusual happened. A dark cloud formed in the sky, covering his light. No matter how brightly he shone, he could not pass through the thick storm clouds. He felt powerless once again. "The clouds are stronger than me," he realized. "I wish to be the clouds." With a roar of thunder, he transformed into a massive storm cloud. He moved across the sky, bringing rain and thunderstorms, drenching fields and filling rivers. People feared his power as lightning struck the ground. But then he came across a mighty mountain. No matter how hard he rained, no matter how fiercely the winds howled, the whole mountain stood strong and unshaken. "I am nothing compared to this mountain," he thought. "I wish to be the mountain." Suddenly, he turned into a towering mountain, his peaks reaching the sky. The wind could not move him, the sun could not burn him, and the storms could not shake him. He was finally the strongest. But then he felt a sharp pain. A strange sensation ran through his body. Something was chipping away at him. He looked down and saw a simple stonecutter hammering at his surface. Bit by bit, the stonecutter's seat broke off pieces of the mighty mountain. Ramesh was stunned. He, who had become the most powerful force, was now being shaped by the hands of a common man. In that moment, Ramesh finally understood. Power was not about being rich, being a king, or even being a mountain. True power came from patience, consistency, and hard work. The stonecutter had the ability to shape mountains with his effort. Real strength was not in status, but in persistence. Overwhelmed with this realization, he wished to be himself again. As the voice granted his final wish, he woke up as the simple stonecutter he had always been. But this time, he smiled. He picked up his hammer and chisel, knowing that with every strike, he was shaping his future. From that day on, Ramesh worked with newfound pride, understanding that small efforts, when done consistently, create the biggest changes in life.